good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're here in the beautiful Chennai, so I'm going to welcome all of you in true Chennai style and say Vanakkam. I'd like to welcome one and all to TiECON Chennai 2017. My name is Dwani Rao, and it gives me great privilege and pleasure to host you for the next couple of days. It's an honor for me to be a part of this grand celebration with all dynamic members of the audience like yourself. TiECON Chennai has built its brand on an unwavering commitment to innovation, excellence, and community building. The organization has defined its vision as fostering entrepreneurship, ensuring that the most number of people benefit from the ecosystem, that growth is equitable, and that relationships and cross-pollination spreads far and wide. It is this commitment to the ecosystem that has fueled the journey thus far, and it is this commitment that we're here to celebrate today. Today is indeed a celebration. It's a very proud moment for the whole TiECON Chennai community as we celebrate the 10th year of TiECON Chennai. Can we have a huge round of applause on that, ladies and gentlemen? So yes, it's safe to say that things are only going to get better. The theme for the next 2 days is simple, powerful, and universal, and something that all of you can relate to. I'm sure it's like a mantra for all of you every day. Dream, dare, do. This is the mantra that catalyzes every entrepreneurial journey. What starts as a dream itches and irks enough to become a passion and inspires us to take the big leap. And once you've jumped, of course, you need to fly. This experience of dreaming, daring, doing is the story of every entrepreneur. It is the story of TiECON Chennai 2017. Absolutely inspiring theme video that was on Dream, Dare and Do. I'm sure all of you are pumped and kicked to start this year's edition of TiECON Chennai. I think the organizing team deserves a huge round of applause for that very motivating and inspiring video, and for all charging us up in the beginning of the day. Before we move on, before I invite our first speaker, I have some house announcements to make. Please put your phones on silent or on vibrate mode, and I'm going to request all of you to kindly refrain from picking calls within the hall. A little bit of courtesy never hurt. Tea, coffee, and refreshments is available throughout the day outside the halls 1 and 2, as well as outside the halls 5 and 6. Anytime you feel like you need to stretch or refresh yourself, you may step out to have a cup of coffee or tea. Since it's the 10th year, we have to shake things up a bit, and the organizing team came up with a very unique idea, a very unique and innovative initiative. It's called the Thai Sunday. It's the perfect marketplace for all your entrepreneurial needs. So you may visit Hall 1 and 2 if you want to go and visit the Thai Sunday. Also, in your delegate kits, you will find a booklet called the Thai Currency. So the Thai Currency has 50,000 rupees, 10,000 notes, and 5 of them you have with you. And these currency, the Thai currency, is not affected by demonetization or GST, so you can be very generous with it. So visit the Thai Sunday if you find a booth that has inspired you, if you love a booth, or if you'd like to give your appreciation to a booth, you can give them 10,000 rupees of Thai currency. With that, also I'd like to remind you the last page on the booklet is the Lucky Dip information tag. Please fill it up and drop it at the lucky draw box. At the end of the event, we will announce the winner, and the winner will receive a fun prize. And for all of you participating in Pitch Fest, please check your time slots with the investors at Hall 3. The event begins at 10 a.m. Hall 4 will be hosting the workshops this year. So all those who've registered for the same, please head to Hall 4 as appropriate. For all of you active on social media, the official hashtag this year is hashtag TiECON Chennai. The most active voice on Twitter has a chance to win a Thai Chennai merchandise. If you have any questions for our speakers, please tweet to us and we will make sure your question reaches the speaker and we will give you an answer. So with that, It's my absolute privilege and pleasure to thank our partners who've made this year possible. TiECON Chennai 2017 is powered by Axis in partnership with the Hindu Business Line. We would also like to thank our other sponsors, our award sponsors, Axis Healthcare, Wealth Advisor, FSS, our healthcare partner, Kaveri Hospital, our day sponsors, Covenant and HDFC, our session sponsors, Universal Legal, Wabag, NABARD, AWS, Rage Communications, Aspire Systems, Dur Sabha Nigam Limited, our country partner IDA Ireland, our delegate kit sponsors Trill and Startup Accelerator, our support sponsors Sundaram Finance and Agria, our caffeine sponsor Fulcrum Venture India, our Thai Sandai sponsor Future Generali, our gift sponsor Elite Matrimony, our workshop sponsor CAMS, our vernacular media partner the Hindu Tamil. With that, now it's time to kickstart the event for this year. May I invite on stage the very dynamic Ms. Akhila Rajeshwar, Executive Director of TiE Chennai, to kindly step on stage and welcome all of you and set the tone for the next 2 days. Please put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen. Ms. Akhila.
So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TiECON Chennai 2017. And we have a lot to be excited for today and tomorrow. Not only we are the largest entrepreneurship conference in Tamil Nadu, we are celebrating the 10th edition of TiECON Chennai. And the organizing committee has put in a lot of effort to make it very interesting and memorable for each one of you attending today, tomorrow, and of course the awards night. So over the next 2 days, you will witness a plethora of speakers, policy makers, successful businessmen, change agents, and seasoned professionals talking on various topics. And apart from that, we also have 4 workshops, one on digital marketing, one on artificial intelligence and machine learning, and one on fintech, and the other one on India Stack. As the first, as mentioned by Dwani, we have launched TiE Sandai, a unique entrepreneurial marketplace that brings together everything that you need to know as an entrepreneur. And of course, added to this are classic fixtures of Lunch with Mentor, Pitch Fest, Sponsor Exposure, and we assure you of 2 packed full days. So each piece of this TiECON Chennai 2017 puzzle has been thought through and assembled in sync with the theme, Dream, Dare, and Do. You will hear a lot more about it in the next 2 days. And this is the mantra of every entrepreneur. We hope you enjoy the experience as we try to make TiECON Chennai so much more than just a conference. Thanks you once more for joining us. And once again, on behalf of TiE Chennai and the organizing committee of TiECON Chennai 2017, I welcome you all. Thank you.
Thank you for that amazing introduction, Ms. Akhila. With no further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you our first speaker for the day. Mr. Venkatesh Valluri is the Chairman and Managing Director of Valluri Technology Accelerator and Valluri Change Foundation. He is joining us to talk to us on the subject that is both currently and hugely relevant in today's time, Smart Initiative for Smart Cities. Please put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, as I invite on stage the very dynamic Mr. Venkatesh Valluri.
Good morning. This is the first time I'm actually coming to a TiECON conference, and I didn't realize the amount of gusto and what I would say the encouragement that's existing over here. When Mr. Nair actually talked about it, he said, why don't you come and speak here? I said, maybe I just have to address about things which we do in this so-called exciting domain of smart cities, but when I look at it, and I look at the kind of engagement and the technologies which even Ms. Akhila talked about, it probably tells me that there's a lot more, and I can get a little more technical and in-depth now as I go forward. The topic really was on smart cities, but what I would like to do is to actually take you back to a little bit of history in this, and then actually talk about what opportunities are there, because I understand there are many entrepreneurs over here who believe that this could be a potential opportunity for them to work in this domain. This initiative, as you know, the Smart Cities Initiative, or though I don't call it really a smart cities, but I call it as urban rejuvenation in the country, started a few years ago. Of course, it's been going on for some time, but it actually started a few years ago. And I believe that today, India specifically is at a cusp where I think the society is truly getting impatient. I mean, you heard of the, I'm going to Delhi immediately after this talk, but probably a lot of us would probably prefer not to go to Delhi today, just because of what's happening there. And I think you've probably faced similar situations a week or 10 days ago when there were floods in Chennai. I think strongly that the society and the country is getting at a cusp where if we collectively don't do something using all the power and technologies we have with us, I can foresee that they can be pretty detrimental issues facing all of us. And the question is not about, whether we should build e-commerce sites or whether we should actually be funding more of the consumption kind of markets, but I think there is essentially a need today for all of us to look at what can we do to just not kind of improve society, but actually look at how do you curtail or how do you actually prevent from further disasters taking place, whether it's air pollution, whether it's water flooding, whether it's you name it. And I think there's no longer this issue of, the haves will not get affected, only the have-nots will get affected. I think each one of us will actually get affected. And therefore, I think the business model now, for a long time where we talked about market capitalization, shareholder value maximization, et cetera, needs to now actually get into a different domain altogether. I mean, I talked to a number of investors who come back and say, Mr. Valluri, but this is a very long-term, long gestation period. Probably we're not very interested if it doesn't make 20%, 30% returns. But I think forget about that. But if we don't actually fix issues, I think this society could go actually in a very, very in a dangerous manner, which probably is not good for any one of us. So therefore, when I talk about smart cities or urban rejuvenation, the message to all of you is that it may not sound as sexy as what you find about the other business models, but this is something that needs to be done, and there is actually value over here that needs to be done. A few years ago, when the government of India actually announced this whole concept of smart cities, at least the way we looked at it, and my company looked at it, was for long, the way we have approached markets is more take a look at a product and create a market. You took a product inception into the market by saying that, okay, there was a product available, let's push it down. And I come from an engineering background. For many years, I've worked in engineering or more in the technology fields. It was always, let's get a product from overseas or built somewhere over here, but push it down and say that this is the product that's right for the market. Some of the industry never looked at what was a market-needed solution as opposed to saying a product-driven market creation. We never created markets based on what the solution was required for the market. We looked at a singular product and we drove it down. And when you look at the large societal problems today, I think the reason for me to say this is that if you really want to create a solution in the market, you no longer have the option of being a singular domain expert and saying that I will go and actually solve that problem. It's becoming what I would call as a convergence approach, where you need to actually build in multiple technologies, multiple products, and actually make a solution out of it. Which means there's no longer the core competency concept of the erstwhile gurus of C.K. Prahlad and all, where you can say that you can actually be living in one specific domain and saying that I'm going to go and solve the problem. Which again means that you need to start creating platforms where you can bring in multiple technologies, multiple products to create a solution. And therefore, in this urban rejuvenation program, which some of them call it as smart cities, it had to become an area where you looked at platforms where you can actually bring in multiple technologies and start creating solutions. So there was no one single company which could actually go up and say, listen, I will look at your city and I will actually solve this problem, because the water flooding in Chennai has an impact on health. The air pollution in Delhi has got an impact on health. The air pollution cannot be actually fixed till you don't know where the pollution is coming from. You need a certain GIS technology. You need a certain technology to actually figure out where the damn pollution is coming from. So it actually needed multiple domains to be actually integrated. And I think that is where the problem started to come. As I worked with multiple states and multiple cities, recently in Bangalore and Karnataka, one of the things we actually started doing was to see whether we can actually look at a whole AI platform, an artificial intelligence platform, to actually build what I would call as a unified tool to actually look at what we can do in terms of figuring out the health of the city. Because the issue first is, how do you fix the health of the city? What is the standard of a health of a city? I mean, today's newspaper, I think, showed that Chennai had reasonably good air. Delhi was in the dumps, and of course the other cities were kind of, but none of them had air which we really need to figure out to say that this is clean air. So as we build this whole process, in the last, I would say, 18 months, we started delving about what technologies we really need to look at in terms of building programs, solutions in cities. Without naming a city, I'll give you an example today, and I'll say what the components of this whole urban rejuvenation programs have been. When the government actually launched, it said that they would fund every year 100 crores to each city which made the cut. And the state in response has got to fund another 100 crores every year for a period of 5 years. That means 1,000 crores would be actually given over 5 years to every city that made the cut for the top 100 cities. And then, of course, this was expected to kind of multiply over multiple cities. But the whole deal was this market, 100 into 1,000, 100,000 crores was the size of the market, which it actually launched and said there was money in this market. So for a lot of entrepreneurs, for a lot of people who were in the technology domain, 100,000 crores pie, let's go after this market. So at least you knew that there was money at the end of the tunnel and you could actually bring in technologies. So there was a market-driven, identified market potential to say, let's go after this market. Now the question was, when you actually look at a 100,000 crore market, what do you actually want to do in each of these cities? Now as you went into cities, and I know a number of what I would call as surveys were carried out, etc. So the top 5 or 6 areas that came up were water, air, surveillance, healthcare, infrastructure. I mean, typically this was a common theme that ran across every single city, by saying that if we actually fix these 5 areas, the society could essentially be looking at a better standard of living. Now, how do you fix water? And I'll take a couple of examples. Maybe I'll talk about water and air, and in the interest of time, let me give you a few examples of how these opportunities are beginning to pan out. And I think that's true of Chennai, that's true of Bangalore, that's true of Delhi, it's true of every tier 2, tier 3 city. Recently, I was in a southern state city, not naming the city right now, but this city uses about 40 million liters of water every day for its citizens. I mean, it's not really a city of the size of Chennai, but it's probably a much more smaller city. It uses 40 million liters of water every day, and it generates 30 million liters of wastewater every day. Now, guess what happens to the 30 million liters of water every day? They leave it in an open area, and it actually evaporates. So you have groundwater being sourced out of 40 million liters, being used, wastewater being generated of 30 million liters, and these 30 million liters of water are, because they are wastewater, they are put through an STP plant which does not purify it very well, so they leave it out in open, what I would say, farms, which basically evaporates. This city is becoming to be a dry city, a dry area where it's becoming water stressed. The typical need for water for a human being is about 130 to 140 liters a day. This city is unable to actually provide more than 30 liters a day. So at one end, you have a situation where the city is losing out 30 million liters of water due to evaporation. There's the other end where the industry does not get water and people don't get actually water. Now, is that an opportunity for people in this room to look at as a decent business opportunity or not? I think it is. Now, what do the bureaucracy and what does the government do? It suddenly realizes that, it's becoming a water-stressed city, so now we need technology. So what does it do? It calls for global tenders. Can somebody actually fix my water issues? And in this rush, it says, okay, we will pay any price that is required to actually fix this problem. Now, I think that is where the issue begins to come up in every single city, village, town, that how do we create a business model which can actually fix these issues, which are low cost, decentralized, quick to react, can go and fix it. Now, when you actually start peeling the onion, then you realize that there are multiple technologies and multiple levels that you need to actually address. You get into material science. You get into nanosciences. What kind of filters you need to build. You get into data acquisition systems. You need to figure out what is the quality of water at every level, what is happening. How do you measure that? And I tell you, this has been a real challenge for us to look at even 3 kilometers of water tracking of what the quality of water is at the inception level to the delivery level. It was very funny. The collector came up and told me, listen, you know what happens? Our city has got a natural gradient where the water flows because of gravity from point A to point B. But in the bargain, when the water is flowing, we don't know where the pipes are, but the water flows. It reaches at some place. But the pipes are slightly old, and the drain pipes, the water that goes through wastewater, and the drain pipes and the fresh water, some places the water starts getting mixed up. So my question was, then how do you find out where exactly the water is getting mixed up? The question was, when we actually start seeing cases of dysentery in the hospital, we know somewhere in that area, actually the water is getting mixed up. So can you actually put sensors and pick up the water quality? Yeah, we've thought of that, but we don't know really how to actually pick up the water quality in situ, real time, and actually tell the people that this can be done. Now, every town, every village, every city has got this problem. Is that a huge business opportunity? I think it is. Is it actually creating societal standards and values that will actually improve living standards? Absolutely yes. So when we go and put up sensors, we realize that the sensors are unable to actually transmit data because there are walls, there are buildings, etc., etc. You need to have a new frequency domain. You need to have some low frequency, long length kind of transmission protocols, etc. And then suddenly you open up another worm of technologies that need to be actually addressed. Now, when you look at all this, from data collection to data analytics to water treatment to filter formation to nanomaterials, it's a whole cycle. It's a complete cycle of end-to-end where you're trying to solve an issue where you're saying, yes, if I can actually do that, then I can actually put a whole converged technology solution to solve the issue of a village, of a city, or of a town. And I think that's truly the need of the hour today if you want to really talk about urban rejuvenation and improving societal standards in this country, because I think if we don't do it, if we don't do this, you will have probably larger challenges in terms of society as we go forward. I don't know if those of you are aware or not, but Gurgaon today, there are already water wars happening on the road. Village 1 versus Village 2 can actually come on the road, have a fight to decide who will get the water. So when you talk about urban rejuvenation and smart cities, this is where I see as water is an example which is huge in terms of building business models. So all of you who might want to kind of pitch to the investors of saying, we've kind of come out with this fantastic e-commerce model of, sourcing product from A and selling it to product B, think about this. This is where I believe that the future business will come because there is societal pressure, the bureaucracy will need to act. The second piece is if I take the example of air, and which you're actually seeing in Delhi and in probably many cities. It's a very broad brush today if I look at air. You get to air and people will say the city is polluted, the village is polluted. So what are you going to do about it? You have no clue why it is getting polluted. And there is no technology today to say, how is it getting polluted? The technology tells you that, yes, the air is polluted, the PM 2.5 level is this, PM 10 is so and so, NOx is this much, sulfur dioxide is this much in the air, but damn it, who is actually polluting it? How do you actually figure out where is this pollution coming from? And a number of people in this country, whether they're education institutes or research institutions, would come up with this broad brush 30,000-foot assessment by saying the air is getting polluted. Again, peel the onion a little more and say, okay, can we actually figure out where is this pollution coming from, where you can say, I can figure out on my map, on a GIS map, the lat long of the place from where exactly this pollution is coming. Can you actually drive a solution to fix that pollution? Or will you actually make a statement by saying my city is polluted? I think at the end of the day, what is required is you want to fix a problem. You want to get a solution done. How do we build the technology? What algorithms can we actually put in and put together to say, listen, this is the lat long of this place where the pollution is coming, and therefore the authorities need to go and operate quickly. So imagine today, if you've got industries around the Ambattur area or some other area in Chennai, and you don't know which industry is polluting, except that you come up and say that, listen, Chennai is getting polluted, what do you do about it? You can come back and say, yeah, I'll do odd even days, and like what Delhi does, or you'll say, my crops are getting burnt or something else is, but how do you actually pinpoint where the problem is? And I think that's a technology that needs a lot of development. The West has got it, but the easiest thing we will do is let's go to the Western countries and pick it up. And I think that's where my logic has been, either to the ministries or to the research institutions, is that we need, either whether they're entrepreneurs, whether they're local developers, we need to figure out some of these basic technologies in the country that we can actually start building. A third example is in infrastructure, and I think Chennai could be a perfect city for that. You had heavy rains. You had your drains filling up. You had water coming out. Bangalore is another example. You can never figure out whether the road has got a pothole or not. Now, how do you build technologies to make a preventive assessment on these? Countries have actually gone ahead and done it, but we still kind of work on a situation of saying, when will a road actually get damaged? How do we make a predictive assessment of that? You need AI, you need data acquisition, you need to figure out what is going to be the service of that road when it can be fixed. So there are multiple, what I would call as applications and technologies that we need to build, and all these applications and technologies, when converged together, will actually build what I would call as a health of a city, and basically then drive execution and system integration. This market, in my opinion, in the future, is probably going to be billions of dollars. So those of you who are aspiring in terms of looking at what the new business models need to be, yes, the rest of it will kind of continue to happen in terms of consumption markets, but I think these markets, essentially, where you're talking about societies, where you're talking about improving societal living standards, and we're talking about traffic, air, water, health, security, I think these are huge markets that really need to be addressed and applications need to be built. So what we did, and I thought I'll just share this example with all of you, is 18 months ago, we put a bunch of youngsters, young technology people, and we launched in what we call as looking at AI, MI, a number of kind of technologies. And we said, can we actually build a converged tool where we can actually take it to a city, to an environment, where we say, okay, we will tell you exactly where your problems are. For the first time, we will actually be running it in a city in the south with 50,000 people, what we call as the urban tectonics model, where what we are doing is we are integrating the entire city of, a part of the city of about 50,000 people, where we will actually be moving in terms of air quality, water quality, infrastructure, and energy. We're putting all these things together to actually assess the area of about 50,000 people. And we're actually measuring data. There are sensors across the city. We've actually figuring out where is the pollution coming out from in this city, what is the status of water, what needs to be done. We took a GIS map, we built it into a 3D form, and all these technologies are now going to be embedded on top of this map. So every location becomes a 3D map location using LiDAR, which is a radar technology of picking it up. We map the city, we look at where the drains, where the underground drainage, where it is, and on top of that, all these 5 parameters, what you're seeing, from assessing air to water to flood risk to infrastructure energy, is all actually built into that location. So this becomes a converged model for a city to say, yes, I can take a decision, or I can make a decision of what is going to happen. And this is, again, for some of you who will be very interested, who could be interested, is what we are talking about now is what is the impact of health, or what is the impact on health because of air, because of water, polluted air. How does a policy maker make a decision taking these inputs in? If I can predict the air quality, if I can predict the water quality, and I can tell them, listen, this is what is going to happen in your city because of the water quality and the air quality, we're actually building what I call as a correlative analytics module, which is what we're trying to talk with the center in the country to say every state, every city should be able to have this correlation between the pollution, the water, and the impact on specific lifestyle diseases. And this is what we are actually, it's a first look of how the city will look and how the areas of air, water, energy, and infrastructure will be actually embedded on top of that on different layers, where the policymaker and the decision maker can take a look at it and say, yes, we need to make these corrections in these areas. Now, the reason I just wanted to give you a kind of a preview is that in each of these domains as we build it, there is so much of depth that's required to actually do it. Suddenly we found last week that as we were talking about water quality measurement, there were some pollutants which, the country did not have technologies to even assess. And what these are becoming now are called as emerging pollutants, for which we do not know how to measure. What is beginning to happen is, with the changes that are happening in the society, there are pollutants that are coming up which have not been measured in the past. And these are causing diseases which the health system is unable to actually diagnose. Now, this may sound very a kind of a do-all good, and is there money in it or is there no money in it? I think from a business model, let me tell you people that those of you who really want to kind of go after this kind of a market, yes, it's a bit of a perseverance market, but there is so much to be done in this market that if you're not looking at a quarter-on-quarter return on investment, I tell you, there is a dearth of technology, low-cost technology, that needs to be built and that needs to be done. No one single company can do it. No one single government can do it. No one single entity can do it. It has to become a platform where we bring in multiple technologies and everybody wins in this game. So, in fact, as we coined our company 18 months ago, we took the tagline by saying converge, create, and change. And the whole deal was, let's converge technologies, let's create solutions, and let's change wherever we can. So with that, I didn't want to really kind of talk about too much of smart city, what the big deal is, but I really wanted to kind of give you a preview or a bird's eye view of the gaps that are there in today in terms of societal upgradation, the technologies that are required, the opportunities that exist. It's a huge country. More than 1,000 cities need to be fixed in some form and shape. The technologies what we import are horrendously expensive. There's a lot that needs to be developed here, whether it's material science, whether it's artificial intelligence, whether it's sensor technologies, whether it's, the whole data analytics that are required, where you're correlating health to these pollutants, there is an immense amount of opportunity that is existing. And I'm sure in the next couple of years, you will have the investors chasing you if you guys are able to actually start looking at these pieces and putting it into the larger jigsaw puzzle of fixing what I would call as a better future for this country. Thank you.